Good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm Ben Ayers. I'm Dean of the Terry College of Business, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Terry Third Thursday event. We hold this each month here in our Terry Executive Education Center, which is the home of our executive programs, as well as our professional MBA and our executive MBA, which is currently ranked 8th in the U.S. by The Economist. I'd like to thank our alumni board and the Terry Third Thursday committee for organizing today's event. It takes a lot to organize these each month, and appreciate their efforts. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, our corporate sponsor, which is the Bank of North Georgia, as well as our two media sponsors, Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Atlanta Public Broadcasting, WABE. So please join me in thanking them for their support. So our upcoming events, in April, we'll have the pleasure of having Bono Ansley III, who's the president of Ansley Atlanta. In May, we'll have Alex Taylor, who's executive vice president of Cox Enterprise. And then in June, we'll have Mary Lassinger, who's the chairman of the board and CEO of Veritiv. And so I hope that each of you will choose to be with us in the next 3 months. Before I introduce today's speaker, as I've said in months past, I have the honor of each semester teaching the Dear One Fellows class. We select 8 students on campus, undergrads, to participate in the class, and it's a leadership class, and it's probably does me more benefit than it does the students, but they are outstanding young men and women. So today we have the pleasure of having 2 of them here today. Allie Chastain. Allie will be graduating this spring with a degree in management and finance. And then Adrian Obleton will be graduating next spring with a degree in MIS. So if you'll identify yourselves. Okay. So welcome to and if you have not had a chance to meet Adrian and Allie, they are outstanding young individuals, and they're going to do great in business and in life. So I encourage you to have a chance to meet with them. I believe also we've got some of our MBA students that are with their executive or professional MBA. So are any of the students here in the audience? Okay, so if you raise your hand. So thank you all also for joining. We have great programs here in Atlanta, and I'm very proud of our MBA presence here in Atlanta as well. So thank you all for joining us as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Will Harris. Will is the owner-operator of White Oak Pastures, which is a Georgia farm that's been in his family for 5 generations, dating back to 1866. Will was born and raised at White Oak. He did leave to attend the University of Georgia with a degree in agriculture and then returned back to the farm. He worked with his father, and the farm was very, very productive. And they used, when he returned, the modern methods of farming. In the mid-1990s, he decided to revert back to the ways of farming of old with his great-grandfather, and which was a pretty risky proposition at the time. And that has turned out to be very, very successful, and Will and White Oak are known nationally, internationally as a leader in humane animal husbandry as well as environmental sustainability. White Oaks holds the distinction of being the only farm in the U.S. to have both a red meat plant and a poultry processing plant that has been approved by the USDA. And Will is the immediate past president of the board of directors of Georgia Organics, and is also the beef director of the American Grass-Fed Association. In 2011, he was recognized as the Business Person of the Year in Georgia by the Small Business Association. He lives on the farm with he and his family, and he is the proud father of 3 daughters. And today, Will's going to talk to us about one family, one farm, 150 years, a full circle from humane and sustainable farming to industrialized and commoditized farming, and then back again. So please join me in welcoming Will.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I've had a little setback. When I left home, I thought I was going to come up here and tell the Atlanta rich folks just exactly what I wanted to tell them. And I got here and met my ex-brother-in-law, an attorney that I've used through the years, people from Blakely, This ain't gonna be near as good a talk as I intended for it to be. But I am glad to be here with you all. Normally when I talk to people, it's farm groups, and I'm gonna try to tweak that just a little bit and make it more appropriate for this business community. My farm, White Oak Pastures, as you said, been in the family 150 years. From a business perspective, 10 years ago, I had 3 minimum wage employees, and we were selling a little over $500,000 worth of live cattle a year. Today, we have 120 employees. I'm proud that everybody makes over minimum wage. I got employees I pay more than I pay myself and my children. We have good corporate benefits or company benefits. We sell about $28 million worth of products up and down the eastern seaboard. So from a business perspective, that's kind of who we are and where we've been. I'll say this, when we made that growth during that 10-year or so period, until then, I kept my books and ran my business the way my daddy did. When the bank statement came, I put it in the size 11.5 D Red Wing boot box. And middle of January, I went to my accountant and I pushed it across the table to him. We always had a little money in the bank. When we did all that growth, I'll tell you this, prior to those changes, we made money every year. Now, I don't mean it was a get-rich-quick deal, to be sure it was not, but I paid myself a good living wage, and we paid taxes every year. The business made money. We had no debt, and pretty good cow people. That's what we were doing at the time, raising cows. We borrowed $7.5 million and built all those plants and things, and suddenly we had debt. And I learned what a loss carry forward was. I didn't know that. I learned about that. And we got about 100 and something employees, and everybody worked for Will. There was no management structure there. And the way I determined the financial well-being of my company was every Friday night, I'd pour a big glass of wine. I'm talking about a tea glass of wine. I pull up my bank balance at the Bank of Early. We got some Singletaries here that own the bank. And I pull up that's the only time I looked at my bank balance was Friday night with my wine. And I would either go, I believe I saw it, or I'd say, and we finally realized you got to evolve the business from there. And that's what we're still in that evolution process. My great-grandfather came to the farm in 1866. We bet on the wrong pony in the Civil War, and he lost the farm. He had 3 counties north. He was a cavalry officer in the Southern Army, mortgaged his farm in Quitman County to provision his own cavalry unit towards the end of the war. When he lost the farm, he was very fortunate. He had an uncle who was a medical doctor in Bluffton that started him over there in 1866. And he ran the farm. His son, Will Carter Harris, my grandfather, ran the farm. And then my father, Will Bell Harris, took over the farm post-World War II. Now, that is the era when that generation made the first really sweeping changes to agriculture. It was done for very noble purpose. It was post-World War II, people were starving in Europe. They made changes that caused food to be cheap and abundant. The changes they made were they centralized agriculture. It moved out from the farming stayed in the country, but the value addition moved to more urban areas. They commoditized agriculture. All of a sudden, it wasn't about making your crop the best it could be. It was about meeting the minimum standards set by USDA. And they industrialized agriculture. They applied the Henry Ford, make cars at the car factory, shirts at the shirt factory, make chickens at the chicken factory, pigs at the pig factory. And it was wildly successful. For the first time, food was really, really abundant, really, really cheap in all the industrialized world. But there were unintended consequences. And the unintended consequences fell on the backs of the welfare of the animals. It fell in the degradation of the land, from an environmental perspective, and in the impoverishment of rural America. Our little town, Bluffton, Georgia, had 400 people in 1900. The census today says 102, but we can't find them. But that's not real good progress. So I went to the University of Georgia, graduated in 76, 1976. In animal science, I worked for some other folks for a while, both. Eventually made my way home and raised cows like my daddy did. And as I said earlier, we had a good business. And I enjoyed it, but I found that I was enjoying it less and less. The excesses of that production system had started to bother me. Basically, I had started to recognize the unintended consequences of the tools that reductionist science had given us to take cost out of production. So it was in the mid-90s, and I began to read about sophisticated consumers like these that wanted to eat food that was raised differently, meat that was raised differently, and thought I could probably do that. So I started transitioning my farm. And the first thing I did is cease to use performance-enhancing drugs, my hormone implants and subtherapeutic antibiotics on my cows. By this time, we had been reductionist science reduced to a monoculture of only cattle. And if you don't remember anything else, remember this: nature abhors a monoculture. Nature will not allow a monoculture without using the tools that science has given us that allows us to maintain it. So, made the decision to start transitioning, quit using performance-enhancing drugs, and quit feeding grain to cattle. Cattle are ruminants, really not meant to eat grain. And I thought that was all I ever had to do, and I thought I was the premier born-again farmer. And farmed like that for a while, and then realized that, putting pesticides and chemical fertilizers in the pastures is not good. So I ceased to do that, and that was a little more painful. And then I realized you can't maintain the monoculture without using those tools. So we started adding species. Then we realized that hauling animals 100 miles to get them slaughtered by somebody that really doesn't have the same animal welfare values as us is not good. So we built those two plants that he referenced earlier. So by this time, we weren't making money anymore because we were adding value to the product that we couldn't extract from the market. And the $7.5 million we spent on those plants was borrowed money, debt. Never had debt. So we operated like that for a while, and we were bleeding to death. But we just very fortunately, timing is everything, and the timing was accidental. But we caught traction, and the business grew. And today, again, this is a business school, I tell you, we our annual profits are greater today than they were before we transitioned. You know, we were here, we bled for about 5 years, and we're back a little better than we were. Now, return on investment, I know how to figure it, but I'm not going to. It's not good. It's not good. But what is good is we're having a lot of fun and enjoying ourselves. I got 3 daughters, 2 of which work with me on the farm. The other was a school teacher, like her mama. And the spouses of the 2 that are there with me. You know, it's a great work environment, great work experience. The first, again, I'm trying to talk about on the business side of this. I really talk about the production, but we'll talk about business. The first 50 or so people I hired when we made the transition were good local people that I knew the families. I hired them, they're still with me, I love them. The next 40 or so people I hired were people from somewhere else. I met a lady here that said her daughter might like to come and work with us. That's the kind of people we brought in. And I continued to bring them in until I ran out of houses. We bought a lot of houses and lots and places to accommodate employees in Bluffton. We're repopulating Bluffton. Then I ran out of houses, and I had to go back into the local labor pool. The next 30 or so people I hired, I just don't like too much. I dug a little too deep in the well. And today, truly, employee housing is the greatest impediment to the growth of our business. And to deal with that, we're applying for a loan from USDA, and you business people appreciate this. Employee housing loan. It's 1% interest, 33-year amortization. But you know, you got to get it. Anyway, if we do, we're one of those pictures they showed is a store in Bluffton that we're renovating. We've fixed up all the houses in Bluffton that are available to us. We're going to build some more, one way or the other. And what we do, we moved from a monoculture of just raising cattle, selling live cattle. Today we pasture raise 5 different red meat species: cows, hogs, sheep, goats, rabbits, and hand butcher them on the farm. We pasture raise 5 poultry species: chickens, turkeys, geese, guineas, and ducks, and hand butcher them on the farm. We raise pastured eggs, certified organic vegetables, and we have a bunch of little ancillary businesses that are break-even-ish. Some lose a little money, some make a little money. And none of them would ever stand on their own, but as part of this organism that we call White Oak Pastures, they're contributory. We make, as an example, we make biodiesel to run our tractors out of fat from the cutting room. And that spins off glycerin, and they make lip balm and soap and stuff. I don't use much. I use a little soap. I don't use a little. Not much, a little bit. We tan hides and make leather products. We make pet chews. It's amazing what you people will pay for pet chews. And a number of other little things. We sell our. We have done really well in grocery distribution. We sell to Whole Foods Market, Kroger, Publix, and some others. We've done less well, I don't understand it exactly, but less well with food service distribution, with Cisco and US Foods and people like that. The part of our business that we are most excited about is our online store. We do the order fulfillment there at our plant. That's really, we really like that. We really like selling our stuff to people instead of corporations. That's a good part. I'm running out of bullets here. My farm is in between Bluffton and Blakely, Georgia, early in Clay County, right on the line. It's very remote, very rural. If you came to see me, you would have to stay in Albany or Dothan or at my house. And I like you, but I just seen you be in Albany or Dothan. And so we built 6 little cabins for agritourism that has really caught on well. The occupancy is very high. We built a restaurant on the farm to feed our employees. We don't just have 120 employees. We got 120 cowboys and farmers and butchers, and everything on our farm is very hard physical work. If you don't work in the office, which is where I work, it's hard physical work. And so we built a restaurant. It's an open pavilion, like done on the grounds on Sunday, but an open pavilion. But we hired a chef who went to culinary school in Chicago, and we eat really well. I gained about 20 pounds since I quit doing physical work and started eating the chef's food. We cook lunch 7 days a week and supper 4 nights a week. My goal one day is to cook 21 meals a week. So that's who I am and what we do, and I can stand up here and try to pontificate more on what it is, but I'm not going to be very happy doing it, and you're not going to be very happy hearing it. I would much prefer if somebody would ask me questions for the remainder of the time and let me respond. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I also just had a question. At the beginning, you mentioned that you had to rearrange your management structure with all these people. Can you talk more about what the management structure is like and how you decided to build the structure?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'm very proud of these people that are our managers. We've got I think it's 5 directors. It was me, one of my daughters, the other daughter's not, one of my son-in-laws, the other in-law is not, our controller, who is the smartest, meanest woman in America. We all scared of her. And our director of operations. We are the directors. Under us are a number of managers. We have a poultry production manager in the field and a poultry processing manager in the plant. A small ruminant manager, production manager, that's sheep and goats. A hog manager, cow manager, that's all production. Egg production manager, sort of a vegetable farm manager, and a services manager. We've got a 3-man fencing crew that just builds fences, a 3-man carpenter crew that does work on our houses, and a 3-man mechanic crew that keeps our ragged equipment running. He's over that. I probably forgot something. And we got an accountant, we got an HR person. Yes, sir.
Well, you mentioned the production side a minute ago. You were a little bit ahead of your time, but there seems to be such an increased consciousness and awareness of where our food comes from and what we eat. I mean, it feels like people pay more attention to that stuff. I know in our house with twin little boys, there's never been anything organic or not organic in 4.5 years. Can you talk a little bit about A, production, and B, kind of where you see this country or this world going, good or bad?
That's a great question. There is a growing awareness that creates a growing demand for food that's raised with higher levels of animal welfare, environmental sustainability. And we believe, most of us intuitively believe that there may be some health and safety benefits to it. I don't comment on those things. I used to. Then I realized how stupid farmers look talking about nutrient density and amino acids, and there are dietitians and doctors and nutritionists that do that. So there is a growing awareness, and the growing awareness is what allowed us to catch traction on our farm so that our businesses became profitable again. But now let's not get too carried away with that. There's a growing awareness in this room. There's a growing awareness in this part of town. Have you ever been to a Walmart? those people are 7 generations from. So, you know, it's not you know, everybody, you know, the choir, we sing to ourselves. There's a growing awareness, but I don't, a lot of people that do what I do for a living believe that we are leading the charge. It's going to change the way food's produced in America. I don't think that. I think that I am raising food the way I want to farm for a selected clientele that wants food raised that way, and I'm happy with that. I'm not an evangelist. I don't feel like I got to change the way America farms. I'd like to see it, but that's not my job. I run White Oak Pastures. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I don't, is it on? Okay. When I go to the grocery store and I pick up a chicken breast that is the size of a basketball, can you please tell me what size that chicken was?
Yeah, yeah, I can't talk about that. So, you know, everybody in my family are irreverent and profane people except my mama and my wife. And my mama's deceased, but the only time I remember her, she was a home cook, homemaker, farm wife, and she made the best fried chicken I know of. And she cooked it in a black skillet, and she'd go get those breasts big as basketball, and she'd say, this ain't no chicken. And you know, she's right. The chickens we have today are a far cry from the jungle fowl in South. All chicken descended from jungle fowl in Southeast Asia. That's where they came from. In the last 70 years, there's been an intense breeding program that has caused the chicken with the pendulous breast that you referred to. There's a move back away from that. It takes Tyson and Purdue, I call them Mr. Tyson and Mr. Purdue, about 5.5 weeks to make a 5-pound dressed bird. Be about a 7.5, 8-pound live bird. It takes me, okay, so let's get back to it. 5.5 weeks, 5+ pound bird. It takes me 12 weeks to get a 3.5 pound bird. But now my birds can fly up and land on that, whatever that is there. You know, his birds can't get up on my hat if I throw it in the floor. So it's a lot of difference. And you know, if you want a great big chicken nugget, you know, we ate them today. You know, I did too. Right.
I probably don't need the microphone for
You probably need to watch what you say. He's my lawyer.
You had mentioned that obviously 15, 20 years ago you were a monoculture, agricultural, industrial operation. You now have obviously diversified enormously. At what point do you decide we've gone diverse enough? In other words, are you feeling overly extended in any way because you've made this transition?
That's a great question too. So we do a lot of things on our farm. I hadn't told you about all of them. We raise black soldier flies. We have a composting operation, black soldier flies feed chickens. It's a very complex organism. There are so many more things we want to do that we spend a lot of our time prioritizing and reprioritizing. My goal is not to grow the business any bigger than it is. I never intended to do $28 million worth of business. I never intended to have 120 employees. But there are many more other things within the organism I want to do that would improve it and safeten it and make it better. So growing the company, no, don't want to grow the company. A lot of projects I want to do within the company. I could talk to you about them all day. But how do you decide when to quit? I have learned about 12 times that you got to have money, management, and time to implement something. It's not the best 2 out of 3. You know, my little mean, smart controller accuses me that every time we get $100 ahead, I make a down payment on something. And there's some truth in that. But you know, there's just things we want to do. Our farm, there's no question on our farm, we do more different things than any other farm I know of. Now, I've never had an original thought in my life. I stole all that from somebody. But our claim to fame is that we're implementers. We can go get that and make it work within the organism and scale it up and vertically integrate it. And it's a lot of fun to do it. Like most things we do are not driven by, this is going to make us some more money. This is going to improve our profitability. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's all we got is what we make. It's no other. It's not a rich man's philanthropic organization, but the decisions are driven by what makes the organism work better. And then the profits just kind of show up as a result of that. I used to think I ran a business. Now I think I operate an organism.
On the land management side, you talked about it was painful when you quit using fertilizers and whatever else you were putting in the land. Elaborate how you navigated that, and I think you alluded to the diversity of species. You started taking on different animals. Did that help with the management of the land? And how did you decide which was your next species? Like after cows, where'd you get it?
Great. So I wish you all that care about, have any interest in land and land management would Google Savory Institute. Probably not many people have ever heard of that, but it's a regenerative land management system. And we are a savory hub. There are 29 in the world. Savory like savory food, but except nothing to do with it. It's a guy named Alan Savory. There's 29 hubs in the world on 6 continents. We're one of them. There are 3 east of the Mississippi. But we subscribe to the theory that sustainable ain't good enough anymore. Sustainable was fine until we screwed it up. Now it's got to be regenerative. And we believe that the best way to be regenerative with reference to agricultural land is through the use of livestock. We use livestock to shape the land the way we want it. I told you it was painful when we gave up using chemical fertilizers, particularly in pesticides and tillage. At that time, my land was less than 0.5% organic matter. Today it's over 5% organic matter. And that may not mean much to you, but the difference in 0.5% organic matter and 5% organic matter is the difference in a handful of tiny glass beads, no life in it, and a rich organic medium that's just teeming with life. Some of it you can see, most of it you can't see. That's the difference. My cousin, who I love, who farms conventionally and is very successful, very profitable every year, owns the farm right beside me, a fence between us. My land's 5.5%, his land's less than 0.5%. He's my cousin. I love him. He thinks I'm crazy. I think he's right. But it's regenerative agriculture. We could talk about it a long time, but using animals to reshape. And the land gets better every year. People say, well, how long you got to do it before it gets back the way it was? Well, you ain't virgin but one time, but it gets better and better. Yes, sir. How we determine pricing when we first started, and it continues to be true today. And this is a very unflattering answer, but it's what the market will bear. When I was a professional cattleman before we changed, I could tell you exactly what it cost me to raise a pound of beef last year. It's the only enterprise I had. Total dollars sold, total expenses. I was in the ag school. Shit, I can do that. Today, I don't have any idea what it costs me to raise a pound of chicken because it's all so interactive. When I first started, I knew I was losing money. So the way I price my stuff is I check the market. And if somebody had something that I thought was not quite as good as mine, I priced it a little higher. And it's not too far removed from that today. I have no idea what my cost is. Walter Robb is the co-CEO of Whole Foods Market. They share, he and another guy share the job, John Mackey. And I was invited to Miami to a Whole Foods event, and he was the keynote speaker. I was the token farmer there. I had about 12 words. And then I sat down, and he did a great job, like all you CEOs, all y'all CEOs, ain't you? All you CEOs do. And his subject was the higher purpose of Whole Foods. And I'm close enough to that company that there was no surprise. I enjoyed the talk. He did it great. There's no new information there. I knew all that. I'd already heard and seen it and witnessed it. But on the way home, I drove and I had some little audio books to listen to. I didn't put them in because I just couldn't get over the fact that for the first time I realized we got a high White Oak Pastures has a high purpose, and we had developed it, and I didn't even notice it. Before I made the change, for me, it was all about squeezing as many pounds of beef as I could out of my farm at the lowest cost. That was my purpose. That was my thoughts. I knew those numbers. I was focused on it all day, every day. I was really good at it. We started making these transitions that I described to you, and I didn't realize till I heard him talk about Whole Foods high purpose. I said, I never think about what it costs me to raise a chicken or how much I'm gonna get for it. I just think about the chicken and the land that's under the chicken. And fortunately, the market's been good enough to give us a profit back out of that. Any other questions? Is it time to go?
You mentioned that your timing was good. And I forget your exact phrase, but it was great. I can't remember, but you've gotten a lot of attention from Whole Foods, and my wife told me you were on Oprah. I've seen this aired recently. Dr. Oz, sorry.
I hope to goodness when I die, I'm not remembered as a man who's on Dr. Oz one time.
I doubt you will be, but tell us about some of the publicity you got, experiences
I was, before we started this business, I was a very private person. If you showed up and wanted to interview me, I would have dismissed you. I came to realize early that if I choose a production system, which I did, that causes the product to cost more to the consumer, it's incumbent upon me to educate the consumer as to why that is. I mean, it's arrogant to say, this is the way I'm doing it, buy it. You can't, it's incumbent, it's just part of the job. It's not a part of the job that I exactly relished. And when I went to the University of Georgia in 1972, they gave us a paper application, and you checked what you wanted to major in. And they had marketing and sales. I didn't check any of that. I checked out on husbandry. But I can't speak to but so many people. This is a pretty big deal for me. This is a big crowd for me. But I was doing something. I was an early adopter in a field that people wanted to write about and read about. So when people would say they wanted to come do an article or whatever it was, I understood that it's my job to accommodate that. Not because I'm a nice guy, because I'm not. but I just, I need to use that aid they're giving me. So the answer now is, can we? Yes, ma'am. You come right on. What can we tell you? And I'm shifting that to other people in the company more and more.
Well, the number of independent farmers has decreased over the decades. Can you talk about, how you remained independent, and if you ever had any thoughts about joining a cooperative or a corporation, especially in those 5 years where you were hurting?
Never crossed my mind. I'm not, for me, cooperative and communism, it looks good on paper. I don't know that I want to be part of that. The number of farmers has decreased. That was the industrialization. The industrialization made food, yin and yang. It made food cheap. Made Bluffton have no people. It's interesting. We talk a lot about health in this company. How much we spend on health in this company. And I told you I don't talk about food safety and nutrient density, but a lot of people believe food raised like we raise it is healthy, can help that. We talk about jobs in this country. I work 120 people. I'm the largest private employer in my county. 120 people isn't much up here. It's a big deal if you got a population of 100 in your town. We talk a lot about global warming. I sequester more carbon in the soil than I'm convinced I'm not carbon neutral. I believe I bring carbon. I do away with greenhouse gases. Yes, my cattle fart. Yes, they do. I also do the arithmetic on 5.5% organic matter on 2,500 acres of land. How much carbon we put in the soil that used to be up here. So I guess what I'm saying is, and I can go on with different things, a lot of the problems we got, this kind of farming is the cure. If we continue industrializing farmers, there'll be less and less of them because you need less and less. Do it bigger and bigger. That's right.
What's your favorite animal to raise? Which one do you enjoy most?
I was raised. I was raised with cattle. My dad was a cowboy. I was raised with cattle, so that'd have to be my choice. But I don't even think of them as separate species anymore. They're organisms in symbiotic. Which one of your young'uns you like the best? They're just in symbiotic relationships with each other. And so I don't have one. If I had to go, if I had to go back to raising one species, it'd be cattle, because that's what I do. It's in my DNA. But it'd be like going from having cable television to watching one channel of black and white. I wouldn't like it too good.
One of the things that's so interesting is the period of time that the business has been in existence. And you just mentioned that you've transitioned and gone through an industrialization and commoditization. What sensors do you have internally or externally that help you go through this transition or transformation and actually adapt to what we're in now, even the information age? So do you have internal and external sensors that you use to actually go through this transition and decide which way to go and how to adapt and how to transform?
If I understand that question, I would tell you that we operate way more out of Intuit than out of anything else. These 120 employees I got, well, let's talk about the 90 before I went too deep in the pool. I cannot walk from one side of our facility to the other without somebody saying, hey, I know what we need to do. And sometimes it is brilliant. Sometimes it is stupid. And I always respond the same way, no matter. I say, that's a good idea. Now, if it's brilliant, I say, I'd like to do that. Work on it and help us figure out what it costs and what it's going to take to do it, to implement it. And let's talk about it again. And tell you what, it's me and you and him and her. Get to talk about it tomorrow. And we do, and if we can find the money, management, and time, we'll do it. If it's stupid, I say, that's a good idea. I'm going to think about that. And if I can find the money, management, and time, we'll probably do it. And we probably ain't. That's a lie. We ain't going to do that. But, most time it's I've already learned that don't work one time. I don't want to learn it again. They hadn't learned it yet. That not answer the question? Well, let's talk about two different things here. The being certified, being certified is, it's kind of superficial. I mean, it's, do you comply with these rules, some of which make sense, some of which don't make sense? You pay the little fee, and the guy comes to see you once a year. Generally, organic certification it's good. But there's loopholes in it, and there are people doing some pretty atrocious farming practices under the auspices of USDA certified organic that cause me to not be proud of it. So I'm proud. I mean, I don't have a tattoo that says I am USDA certified organic. But generally, most of the people who are certified organic are good people doing good work. But it's just big. It's government. There's big loopholes in it. So that. I don't know if that answers that question, but then the process of actually farming organically is getting there is painful. So what happens is, I'll tell you a story. So what happens is you give up those tools, and there's a long lag time before your land responds and you're able to not miss them so bad anymore. I want to tell you a story, if you understand that. So my daddy told me, I started a lot of stories my daddy told me. He went to a farmer meeting in 1946 in Bluffton, Georgia, a little peanut company. And it was a sponsored fish fry, barbecue, whatever, by a fertilizer company, by a fertilizer company. A salesman showed up, paid for the meal, had 2 100-pound bags of ammonium nitrate fertilizer. And ammonium nitrate was not invented in 1946. It's been around a long time. But post-World War II, it became cheap and abundant because they took the munitions manufacturing machine industry and repurposed it for ammonium nitrate. So all of a sudden, it's available and cheap. Fertilizer company hired a salesman. He gave all the farmers there a brown paper sack with ammonium nitrate in it, and the request to go home and get out in your pasture and make a design with a straight line or a circle or write your name, whatever you thought you wanted to do, water it, wet it good, and then leave it alone for 3 or 4 days and then come back and look at it. So my daddy did that. And when he got back and looked at it, if the rest of the grass was this high and light green, where he put that ammonium nitrate, it was this high and greener than that. So what my daddy said, I want the whole place to look like that. And starting in 1946 until the mid-90s, over half a century, either my father or I put ammonium nitrate fertilizer on every acre of land we had, maybe 2 or 3 times, at least once. Well, and we were profitable, successful farmers doing it. But when the first time my father did that, he oxidized a good percentage of the organic matter in that soil, because that's what ammonium nitrate does. And he killed a percentage of the microbial life in that soil that feeds plants. So he started the process of killing the land, but that's an unintended consequence, and you can't see it. You can see the grass. You couldn't see what's happening with the microbes and the organic matter. So the process of healing that is long and painful financially, physically too. But the process of getting certified, it's bureaucracy. That's why I can't hear a word.
Philosophy about choosing to have your own abattoirs?
Yeah, address having our own abattoir. When I was a little boy growing up, there was never a day that I wanted to do anything other than run that farm. You know, when people want to be a fireman, a professional football player, or a doctor, a lawyer, or a CEO like all y'all, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to run the farm. I never wanted to own a slaughterhouse. I never thought that would be a cool thing to do. And the day I built it, I didn't want to build it. But when I first started marketing my own beef, I was using other abattoirs or slaughterhouses to process it. And 2 or 3 things happened. One is I couldn't get it done the way I wanted it, or felt like I needed it done. I'm not a controlling person, but I sure like stuff the way I want it. 2 is the animal welfare was not good. We had different philosophies completely. And the third thing is I exhausted all the local excess capacity and still wasn't profitable. It wasn't enough out of it. So we went kicking and screaming into the processing business. But we built 2 plants. We built the red meat plant and then a few years later the poultry plant. Yeah, you like it?
Can you speak on your philosophy on animal welfare?
Mm-hmm. My philosophy on animal welfare. So when my father was farming industrially and I was farming industrially, there was never a day that we didn't believe we had good animal welfare. We believed our land stewardship was good. In both cases we were wrong, but we thought it was. We thought we were doing good. The mindset, the paradigm shift through industrialization was that good animal welfare really meant, as a stockman, I didn't incur pain and suffering on the animal. As long as I wasn't causing the animal to be, suffer or inflict pain, it's good animal welfare. I now believe that good animal welfare means it's incumbent upon me to create an environment in which the animal can express instinctive behavior. Cows roam and graze, hogs root and wallow, chickens scratch and peck. That's instinctive behavior. And when you put a hog in a firing crate on concrete, there's no rooting and wallowing. A cow in a feedlot, there's no roaming and grazing. A chicken in a chicken house or a battery cage, just, and we don't do any. Used to on our farm, we castrated everything that wasn't named Harris. Today, gosh, I'm so glad we had that philosophy. Yeah, 3 slow employees. Today, we don't castrate anything. We don't cut horns. We don't cut claws. We don't cut teeth. We don't cut wings. You know, we just don't do that anymore. So, a big shift in what we thought was good animal welfare. How about that? I don't know what the time situation is. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Actually, I was just kind of curious. What kind of like IT systems have you had to put in place as your business has grown this much to like accommodate?
Yes, the wrong man. So the IT system, I told you what it used to be. You know, we just put in a bunch of stuff. Sage, that mean anything to you? Sage accounting. That's Russ. What is that? You know anything about that? You know, we spent about $175,000, and I can't even see it. I mean, I never spent $175,000 on something I wouldn't breed, or you could drive it, or it ought to do something. But it does do something. We got I think we got 6 divisions and 15 businesses that they keep up, that our controller and accountant, and we use it. We have a managers meeting every week. We took over the Bluffton Methodist Church when it ceased to operate. The Bluffton Methodist Church was built in 1886. They had church there every Sunday until 2013. Last 2 years, 2 couples showed up every Sunday. Methodist Church finally told them, y'all got to do better than this. They didn't, so we got the church. Beautiful building. And that's where we have our administrative offices, accounting, HR, marketing folks, that kind of thing. But once a week, we all meet there. I got a big table. We go around and everybody tells what they like, what they don't, all the managers, you know, and that's the best thing we ever did, start having those meetings. But once a month, we have a financial meeting. And we put anybody that wants to come can come, but managers, but certainly the ones that are involved in that business. And they put the financials up on the wall and on the screen, and we look at it and talk about it, and it's just been real healthy for us. And we make a lot of decisions that are not financial. So, you know, this ain't gonna pay for itself. We're gonna do that. That's one of the things that I really loathe about corporate America. I don't know where I am here, but I'm gonna tell you. I can take as long a view as I want to and do the right thing. I'm not bound by the quarterly report and shareholder earnings this quarter. You know, that as an example. This year we are implementing what I call the Savannah Project. Not Savannah, Georgia, Savannah like plains with trees on. I had one part of our farm didn't have many trees on it, GPSed, and a grid 80 by 80 feet. And everywhere the 2 grids come together, we drilled a huge hole, and we're planting old variety pecan trees on an 80 by 80. And that's old varieties of pecan trees lose money because they don't produce like the new variety. 80 by 80 is about you should have it 3 times that thick. I'm not trying to create a pecan orchard. I'm trying to create a savanna. It's going to cost me, we're going to plant 2,000 trees. We budgeted $50 a tree to get them planted. It's going to be more than that. That's $100,000 we're sinking out there in the pasture that won't do a damn thing good for anybody for 10 years. 0 return. Yeah, we can't afford that. But if you take a long view, those trees will live to be over 100 years old. That's 50 cents a year to have that tree out there. It's worth way more than that. So, you know, in corporate America, I don't think you can make that kind of decision. I mean, you have to explain it to somebody. Frank, I got one thing to say to you. Attorney-client privilege.
Well, actually, as a predator, I wanted to ask about the predators. You obviously have a far more diverse operation, like we discussed. Cattle usually are pretty fend for themselves. You got a lot more species out there that are a lot easier, a lot smaller, and probably quicker to eat. You have a predator problem, and if so, how are you dealing with it?
I don't. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed when they were showing those pictures up there. We've got guardian dogs, and they are great. It's just the most efficacious. I don't have any equipment or people that work good as them dogs. They're out there. They're almost like wild animals. They won't bite you, but I mean, you can't pet them. They breed and have some more. They're steady coming. They make their own way. I don't go to the doctor, and they don't go to the vet, and so that they're just we have our predators are coyotes, feral dogs, bobcats, foxes. For chickens, even coons, possums, and skunks. And those dogs are great. Now they let me down with raptors. I'm gonna tell you this story. I'm sort of proud of this. All right, so the largest population of eagles in the South is at my farm. The Fish and Wildlife guy says we got 78 eagles. And we got a permit recently to use non-lethal harassment. They're just eating us up, like poultry chicken. So we're doing that. And we don't want to get rid of all of them, we'll get rid of some of them. All right, so think about this a minute. We all love the iconic North American predator species. Timberwolves and grizzly bears and cougars, mountain lions and eagles. You see T-shirts with it on there. We name our football teams after them and our Boy Scout troops after them. But all of them are threatened or endangered. And you say, well, why is that? And the answer is always loss of habitat, and I'm sure there's some truth in that, but not really. Because when I started putting livestock out there on the ground, I got 78 eagles. Now, when I had 7 or 8 eagles, I loved it. I thought it was cool. And I thought they helped us. Those eagles weren't catching the smartest, quickest chicken I had. They were thinning the gene pool out like they're supposed to. Gene pools need some pruning. I noticed it coming in here today. Y'all have work to do. But if 10 more farmers was raising food like me, I wouldn't have 78 eagles. I have 7 or 8 eagles, and we'd all be better off. The eagles surely would. And so I think we started. It's just there's a great naturalist named John Muir. You ever heard of him? Muir Woods, north of San Francisco. And he said many great things. One of the things he said is, in nature, when you pull a string, you see everything's connected. And it is. So, we put the chickens inside the chicken house, and the unintended consequence was the eagles perished to death. How about that?
I read somewhere that y'all's cattle are going back to
Last question. Thank God. Time stood still. Go ahead, Bo.
So, what kind of cattle are you raising?
What kind of cattle?
Breed or?
So when my great-grandfather came to the farm in 1866, 150 years ago, he brought a herd of cattle with him. And these are the descendants of those cattle, but now they are not heritage breed of cattle. Those would have been cracker cattle or Piney Woods cattle, which are heritage breeds, but for years they operated with a closed herd. But then my father started bringing bulls in, and then I did. And between my father and I, we probably had at least one of every breed of cattle settled into Georgia. But it looks like at 60 miles an hour, it looks like a mongrelized Angus herd. About 4 years ago, I closed the herd back. So we're actually building our own heritage breed. And you know, if that works well, we'll keep doing it. If we start to see some problems, genetic problems, we'll do something different. But Angus would be if you counted DNA. All right, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
So, Will, let me give you a keepsake here. This is, obviously, we're not the Dr. Oz show, but we do appreciate you coming. This is a sculpture. It's red and black. You're familiar with the colors. And we're proud of you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I hope that each one of you will join us this next month. And if before you leave, if you'd like for us to pay for your parking, make sure it's validated on your way out. Have a great Thursday. Thank you.